Welcome back to the Hive Doctor, your beekeeping mentor. It's my job to take the guesswork out of beekeeping for you. Today we're covering beekeeping equipment. Specifically, we're starting with the bottom board, so stick around. In this series of videos, each little video is going to cover a different piece of equipment. We're going to talk about its position, in other words, where it's placed and in what order. We're going to talk about its function and the pros and cons. And over each, as we cover each one, I'm going to let you know through links in the descriptions where you can find the pieces of equipment if you happen to not be a woodworker. If you are a woodworker and you want to try to build this equipment yourself, go for it. This course will not cover woodworking because I don't want to mess with equipment and safety with table saws and stuff, cutting your fingers off and things like that. But there's plenty of videos and other sources where you can find how-tos. But please feel free to ask me anything in the comments, get a discussion going, dimensions if you need to know that kind of stuff. But for those of us who are not woodworkers, you'll be able to follow those links and see the plethora of things that are available for you. And if you need any extra guidance or suggestions like, hey Jonathan, I'm not sure about which one of these things to get, let me know. Just because I want you to keep in mind, it's part of my goal is to keep the cost down for you. And there's always a benefit to one thing over another. Sometimes the thing that may save you something in the long run is something that is going to cost you a little bit more money. I can tell you, every time I've cut corners, I've always paid for it later. You're going to pay for it up front or you're going to pay for it later. So get ready to start the first video. We're going to cover the bottom board, its function and position in the hive. So have fun with that. Hey, welcome to the first video in the equipment series, identifying beekeeping equipment and its purpose and position in the hive, where you put it, how you use it. So today, the very first one, we're going to cover the structural foundation of the hive. And by structural, I mean the rest of the hive, everything that you see in those boxes stacked in fields when you're passing by on the road, those have to be stacked on something, and that something is called a bottom board. And that's what this part here is. And I just have this sitting on here so that you know, as an example, this is what we do. So I'm going to move this for now. And this is it. It's something that's got 3 raised sides so that that box can sit up and maintain one entrance for the bees to come and go from. And that's pretty much all it does. It's solid. It helps to prevent drafts in the cooler months. Excuse me. And it also helps bees ventilate in the warmer months. Now, you're going to find a variation of bottom boards in the beekeeping industry, and I'm going to explain what those variations are going to be so that you know what you want. You're going to hear me say something today and you're going to be like, I'm not really sure about that, but that other thing you said, that really appeals to me. So right here, this thing's probably about 3/4 of an inch high. So that gives the bees a 3/4 inch entrance. And this is standard in the beekeeping industry. And this is a bottom board that you would use in summertime so that you get more ventilation than you would when you, in the winter time, use the other side, which has a much more shallow lip or shallow rise. This is about 3/8, so it's half the height of this side. So this is a summer side for more air, more ventilation. This is a winter side so that there's less space that the bees have to keep warm. And there's also less space for those cold winter winds to come in and chill the hive, because in wintertime, the bees are in this box right here that you're imagining, and they're clustering together to stay warm. And they need our help in order to do that, because we don't keep bees in trees anymore. There are some exceptions to that in other countries, but here in the US, primarily you're going to see beehives in man-made boxes. So this is a bottom board. a dual purpose bottom board, they don't all come like this. Most of the time they just come with the 3/4 inch rise. And that's okay if that's the way you want to go, because in the winter time or late fall when it starts to get cool, we're going to put a piece of equipment across the front here called an entrance reducer. And that will be in one of the later videos. But that entrance reducer does just as the name suggests. It reduces the entrance so the bees have less space to come and go, so that there's less space for that wind to come in and out of to chill the bees. Now, this being the standard, I have them, but I do not use them. I'm going to show you here in a second what I like to use for my own operation. Okay, so here you can see them side by side comparatively. This being the standard bottom board. On the summer side, the one with the higher rise comes to here on my bottom board. My bottom board is custom made by myself, and it's 2 inches deep. And the reason for this is because when it comes to pest and disease control and beekeeping, something we are definitely going to cover in depth in later videos, just like anything in life, ventilation is key. So think about your own home in wintertime. The doors have been closed for the most part, the windows have been closed, you've got a lot of stale air in that home. And what's one of the first things we love to do when springtime comes around and that fresh air is blowing outside and it's finally starting to warm up? We open the windows, we open the doors, and we get that fresh air in because it's healthy, and I believe the same thing for bees. So when it comes to one of the first steps of pest and disease control and the management of that in beekeeping, the key is prevention. You want to prevent those things from ever happening so that they're not a problem. And my very first defense against it, my first step, is to create a bottom board that allows greater ventilation. And that's what this deeper bottom board will do. And you'll see that on all of my hives. The only thing that you'll notice different, and I'll show you a picture of here shortly, is my new entrance reducers. They're custom made with my business name Bee Native on them, and those are permanent. I made it permanent because I was struggling every year to get those things on in time, and I was never managing to do so. So now they're on there all the time, but it still allows for that more ventilation to come through. So with this style bottom board that I make myself, you've got this higher rise, it's 2 inches, it allows greater ventilation, and in my opinion, ventilation is key in disease and pest and disease management. Why deal with a problem if you could prevent it, is the idea. And by creating a deeper bottom board for greater ventilation, it's my first step in disease management. Now, this, as I mentioned, is custom made. I do these myself. You're not going to find these in beekeeping supply manufacturers, catalogs or stores, and that's okay. If you're a woodworker, make this yourself. That's great. But most of us are not woodworkers. So where do you get a bottom board? Well, for all the equipment series and anything that I ever go over, I'm going to put links in the description. And I'm not an affiliate with any of these beekeeping manufacturer suppliers, but you need to know where to get them. So I'm going to show you several options so that you can look at them and decide which ones are going to be right for you. So that covers the bottom board today. The next part is going to be the hive body, the first box that goes on the bottom board. And we'll cover that shortly. So let's keep going.